How's it going, everybody? Backlog here. A game I've been playing a lot lately is Aviassembly. It's a really neat game where you can fly cargo missions to and from different airports with a plane that you've built. Those cargo missions give you money, which allows you to build bigger and better planes to fly harder cargo missions. What really drew me into this game to begin with was the vehicle builder, though. I have a knack for vehicle building games, but this one seemed a little bit more interesting. You're able to build procedural fuselage shapes, and it doesn't seem too hard either. It's pretty simple. So after a little bit of thought, I decided on building the XB-70 Valkyrie. If you don't know about this plane, it's a really, really cool plane. It was never put into production. Only a few test flights were ever flown, but it was designed to be a supersonic strategic bomber, specifically to drop nuclear weapons. I think it was canceled due to the development of ICBMs, but still, it's a really, really cool plane. One of the most iconic features about this plane is that the wings actually fold down to ride supersonic wake caused by, I think it's the engine air intake. From my understanding, this only gives about a 5% lift bonus to the actual aircraft, but still, it's a really iconic and cool feature about this plane. So the interesting thing about this build is that I wanted to do it all legit. I wanted to build a plane while I was playing career mode and see how useful it actually be in the main game. But after grinding and grinding and grinding in this game, I completed the game and still did not have enough money to actually fully build this plane in the game. Now, the reason that is that this thing has 6 turbojet engines, and to get a semi-accurate representation of that, I needed 6 of the most expensive engines in the game, and they're like 5,000 a piece, and there's just not enough money within the main campaign to complete this thing. So what I ended up having to do is pull this thing over to creative mode and finish it there, and I wasn't completely satisfied with that, but that was literally the only thing that it could do. So something I do want to point out in this game, or at least highlight, is the ability to create complex geometry with the procedural fuselages that are in this game. In this really detailed image I'm showing on screen, we're trying to create the air intake and engine unit that's on this plane. And I know it's kind of like a simple triangular geometric shape, but I'm not sure you'd be able to represent or create that very easily in almost any other game. The closest game to this would be Flyout, but I think Flyout is just insanely complicated. The learning curve for Flyout is just the steepest cliff you've ever had to climb. And don't get me wrong, that's not to say Flyout's a bad game. I think Flyout's an awesome game. It's just, this is like the baby hands version of Flyout, and I'm kind of okay with that. So yeah, Aviassembly definitely gets a thumbs up in my book. It's priced at $10 right now on Steam, and I think that's a reasonably fair price for the game. You can probably get a couple days, maybe 3 days worth of fun out of it before you start to get bored with it. But I think it's worth a shot, and it sounds like they're doing continuous development on it. So yeah, give it a shot. All right, so back to the build. You can see that I've got the engines mounted, and now I'm working on the wingtips that fold down. And I've actually cut out a lot of the footage for this because it was a complete nightmare to get these wingtips to mount on the rotors properly. Half the time when I'd click on them to adjust the size, they would just completely vanish, or at least the symmetrized version would completely disappear. And the other half of the time, it just wouldn't be attached to the rotor and not rotate. It pretended like it was fixed to the aircraft. So it was a complete nightmare to get this to work. But eventually I got something figured out, and I tested it out, and it worked great, and so I stuck with it. So yeah, this thing turned out really, really awesome. I mean, there's a couple of glaring issues with it. Half the rocket engines don't have their visual effects applied to them, but apparently the engines do still work. And the rotors stick out of the wings quite a bit, and they look really clunky, but I felt like it was a decent trade-off to have them actually fold down and represent the real thing. But yeah, this is totally a usable plane that you could have used in the game. I don't know that you'd be able to complete the time missions with it. I think the drag on this plane is like really high in the game's engine. But yeah, you can carry like 1,000 cargo with this thing. It's ridiculously high. You could complete probably 90% of the missions in the game with this. So yeah, really cool plane. Super happy with how it turned out. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks.